What's going on, man?
Peace. What's going on,
man? Definitely sitting here with Paradox, 2WX, Spike LaRock. Yes, indeed. All the names that you are associated with.
Originally, my name was Spike. Back in the Bronx, New York. I got that name around 1974. I was a little boy, and they had Happy Days on, and he had a nephew called Spike. And I went to school with a leather jacket. This kid said, "Oh, you look like Spike," and so I kept the name. And then when the hip hop started coming out, and everybody was using the LaRocks, T. LaRock, Scott LaRock, I incorporated it to Spike LaRock. And I had that name for many years into my 30s.
Oh, wow, okay. Excellent, man, excellent. So then you grow up, so we'll start with you coming down to Tampa, because the goal is in this is to try and capture, your memories of Kenny, talking about your relationship and everything like that, and the past, the present, the future. And we've talked a lot about this, but we've talked about it a lot on the phone and stuff. This is to try and get it recorded.
Okay. I came down here in the year 1987. My parents moved down here from the Bronx, and I came down here to spend a little bit of time with them. But I didn't totally relocate in '87. And my nephew was listening to 88.5 and turning on to the station. I listened here and then, I dug it,
Right.
And I had met at the mall a guy named Day One, which his name was Scooby D.
Okay.
Okay. I was with my little girl, my daughter at the time, and I was trying to win a prize, the little prize. And this teddy bear got stuck in the machine, and then Scooby opened it up and gave her the little teddy bear and a penguin.
Nice.
Right. So me and him started talking, and we hit it off right away. And he's like, "Where you from?" I'm like, "I'm from the Bronx." And this is in Tampa Mall, but the old mall is torn down. It's not even there no more.
Right.
And he starts talking about Digital Underground. I didn't really know too much about Digital Underground. Oh yeah, I'm a member with Digital Underground. I'm down with Digital Underground. And, I'm like, "Oh, for real?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, I'm a Zulu." That's the first thing I told him. I'm a Zulu. I'm a Zulu Nation.
Right.
And we became friends. He gave me his address. I went to see him after work immediately. I didn't know anybody, and I was anxious to make friends in the hip hop community here.
Yeah.
And as I'm out on the stoop with him, guy comes in the car, and he gives Scooby a bunch of flyers, and he's wearing a lot of beads and stuff, with his Zulu beads, with the African medallion and the kufi on his head and stuff. And he gives Scooby these flyers, and I said, "Yo, can I check out one of them flyers, B?" And I looked at the flyer, and on the flyer it said Zulu Africa and the Nation performing at so-and-so. And that was Kenny K's rap name, or MC name at the time. MC name was Zulu Africa.
Okay.
And the Nation, I guess, with the KS. And I got offended.
Right. No, I understand.
I got offended because, I guess because, you're so down south, you're not figuring anybody's gonna, see a correlation.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, the first thing I did was like, "Yo, dude, you can't use that, man. That you can't use that." He said, "Why?" I said, "Yo, I'm a Zulu Nation, B. You can't use your name, Zulu Africa, when, it's originally Africa Bambaataa in the Zulu Nation."
Yeah.
And I said, that's biting. You can't be biting. People get hurt for biting. Nowadays it's different, but back then, you talking about 1987, So, I'm ready to fight somebody like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he apologized, and he was like, "No, this, that, and the other." And he invited me to the radio station, but I didn't go that night. And he asked me what I did, and I said that I was an artist. I did graffiti, a little bit of graffiti, not a lot of graffiti, and b-boy, I used to be boy and then I was an MC.
Right.
You know, because back in the old days of hip hop, you didn't just do one element of hip hop.
Right.
You know, my brother DJ'd, I tried to DJ something. You know? So that's how I met Kenny, and then I tuned into the radio station that night, and he gave me a shout out.
Oh,
he said,
nice.
"Oh, I just met this Puerto Rican brother from New York, Spike the Rock, Zulu Nation, this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Wow, you know, my name's on the radio already." I just got here, you know, and I thought that was real cool. So the following week, I went to the radio station. I had met a few more of the local cats, and Digital Underground was, you know, really making a name for itself. Being from Tampa, it's unfortunate that no one really correlates Digital Underground with Tampa, but with Oakland. But at the time,
Right.
Tampa was claiming Digital Underground as their own.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I guess, you know, there's another story within that story as well. So at the radio station, and I started building with this brother. We hit it off right away.
Awesome.
Right away. You know, there was nothing phony about it.
Right.
You know, the passion for hip hop was definitely there. He was doing what no other stations was doing, and at the time they were actually banning hip hop, which they called it rap music.
Yeah.
They were banning it. You would see a radio station, Power Pig, which was a pink ugly bus that had promoting their thing. The thing was ugly. It looked like someone took paint, spray paint, did fluorescent and put Power Pig all over it. And the radio station said, "We do not play rap music."
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kenny
Nowadays, it's everywhere.
Right nowadays it's everything. Well, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever they call it.
You got country guys rapping on
Yeah.
songs now. It's everywhere.
So Kenny didn't play Luke Skywalker though, which was interesting because that was what was going on. Then I heard Slow Down stuff too. You know, he played X-Clan and KRS-One and Rakim and Public Enemy. He loved Public Enemy and Ice-T. I mean, you know, he played stuff that no one else was playing here. You know, so there was no need for me to really get anyone, you know, tapes from my brother and sent down here from New York when, you know, this guy was really doing it that big on radio.
Right.
And a lot of the acts that he played would come and perform in Tampa. And they'd be at that radio station and he would interview them and I would get a chance to meet them and become affiliated or friends and
Oh, nice.
things like that. You know, he had built a lot of good working relationships with them as well.
Yeah. Now, did that help your career out, or were you still rhyming at the time?
Oh, I stayed. That was in damn near my zenith of rhyming. Like, you know, because I was mostly a park MC. You know,
Okay.
New York, we would rhyme in the parks and stuff like that. And then I went to California. I was stationed in California, and I would rhyme in the parks and do a couple of shows there. So this was happening so fast that you know, I really didn't have that much studio, how can I say, experience.
Okay.
You know, and 88.5 had a little studio stuff there, and I met a few guys, and, you know, so I started getting my feet wet with studio time.
Yeah.
Because I was more of a live performer, and I think if anybody has seen me knows that I don't need to be in a studio. I'm better live.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm an MC. You know, nowadays guys go to the studio and then learn how to do a live performance.
Right.
Where, you know, I'm from the park days and you just jam whatever, they throw on any beat and you can rhyme to any beat and then you go into the studio. So for me it was helping me as far as recording tracks and then giving them to him as a platform for him to play what he thought was good, not because we were friends. If he thought it was whack, he just wasn't gonna play it. If he thought it was dope, he played it.
Okay. Like what I know you mentioned in some of the shows and some of the songs that he played that you did.
Yeah, there was a song that he really liked. I didn't listen to the radio station for 3 weeks. I was busy recording and of course raising a family.
Right.
So I stayed in the studio and working. And so, you know, Saturday nights would come and be the jam or whatever, and I'd be asleep. And so you know, a lot of people recorded these shows. I took for granted that I should have been, but you know, I never thought that Kenny's outcome would be his outcome.
Right.
So he knocks on my door one day and I open the door and I was like, he's like, yo, B, you know, your song is like #1 request that everybody calls, and I was like, which song? He said, Making of a Vic. Now, Making of a Vic was a song that me and Scooby did as a collaboration. It was a Tampa dude and a New York dude on track together, and we were talking about vigilantism in the track.
Okay.
And then at the end, the last verse wasn't really a verse. We were naming out different towns or different areas. Like I would say Soundview, and then he would say College Hill, and then I'd say Fordham Road, and he'd say Palmetto, and this, that, and the other, and it was like with Wild Echo, and people from Tampa and New York that lived here loved the song, but not only that, the lyrical content was the vigilante stories. One of them, the one that my verse was about Bernard Getz,
Okay.
when he was surrounded in the subway and he shot everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was, my story was Making of a Vic, was meaning making of a victim, and then the
Right.
victim ends up shooting his assailants. So it was based on real things, and it became popular. A lot of people didn't even believe that it was my track. My nephew in the school said they don't believe that. People were jamming that thing all over the place.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't have a record label or anything like that. You know, like if there was any record labels in Tampa, that could have actually been something to take off. But till this day, there is not one credible record label in Tampa, and you know this.
Yeah,
of course. You know, so local artists go to Cali or New York or something.
Yeah. You know, so Kenny really gave you the confidence.
Absolutely. He gave me the confidence to see that I could actually get played on radio, you know, because coming out of New York, that was like a big thing when Sugar Hill Gang comes out with a song, and they're not underground, you know what I'm saying? And here I am doing kind of like a KRS-One type of style, you know, and he's not getting that much, let's chill out or something is playing.
Right.
So KRS-One can be considered to be that kind of, broadcaster DJ or what have you.
Right.
And him himself being an MC, he appreciated the true hip hop that we were representing. Him, Scooby, Black Saturday, Blanco. There was also the Posse Beyond Control BBC, Two Fly Eli. There was a lot of local names of some cats that are still around, and I have a lot of respect for. Real dudes, real dudes that love hip hop. Not just because they saw it on MTV and all this other nonsense, but because that's what we live.
Right. Yeah, and that's speaks to Kenny's conscious side. That he's a lot of the message that you hear from a song he's playing is socially conscious, and it seems like you fit into that. You've always fit into that with a lot of your lyrics.
Yeah, Kenny did a lot of songs that no one's heard at the time, and it's very interesting. He did a song called Susie and Muhammad.
Okay.
Okay, interesting, because at that time, Islam was not correlated or suggested to be a terrorist thing. Muslims are not considered, like the media, and X-Clan was big, and a lot of the MCs were either 5% Muslims or what have you.
Right.
So the song Susan and Muhammad was, supposedly a song about a white chick, with a 5% or what have you, or with some Nation Islam type of dude, and what they were going through because they because of the differences. So it's ahead of its time, and I was like, wow, that's a pretty deep song. But if someone wants to hear something that Kenny did that you can actually go listen to, go or listen to Digital Underground song from their first album. It's a track called Danger Zone.
Yeah.
Okay? And anyone that listens to that, you're gonna hear Kenny, you know, and they're talking about crack fiends and this, that, and the other, because crack was big in the 80s.
Right.
And so, yeah, he was a very conscious human being. I mean, you know, it wasn't fake for him to speak on these things in his music. It was very authentic.
Now, was that something y'all connected with? Is that something you guys talked about, or is it just that you had this in common musically?
I would say that it was, we connected, we had in common musically as well, and we bonded because of it.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because our ideologies and our way of thinking were very similar,
Okay.
you know. I understood, you know, the message as, you know, as a revolutionary, you know, and, you know, what we quote unquote have been called radicals during that time. We were kindred souls and brothers in that aspect, yes. You know?
And now, did you guys ever make any music together? Did he ever produce anything for you? Did he give you any beats?
Unfortunately, no. He, you know, we did shows and stuff like that, but we freestyled on the air together.
Okay.
You know, people have recorded it. I don't have any of it. And, you know, he was busy and I was busy, and that was the plan initially for us to do something. He started working with Chuck D from Public Enemy, and that was because, of course, he played a lot of Public Enemy, and they caught wind of their supporter, and then he brought Chuck D to the house, and we met, and because of Kenny, I got to meet an icon that I can still talk to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And of course, I'm still friends with Shock G to this day. Why? Because of Kenny, you know. And I'm from New York, and I'm meeting people in Tampa that I would not have met if not for this man.
Right.
You know. So he was doing really big things, bigger in those days than anyone is doing present day, 2014, 2015. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, he was doing 1987, 88, 89, 90, whatever, bigger than anybody is doing now. And Digital Underground, of course, surpassed any Tampa group that's ever came out.
Right.
You know, and this is a fact.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
no one can dispute any of these things. This is truth, and it's all owed to Kenny K, his vision, 88.5. If you ask Shock G himself, he was not intending to go back into being an MC, but Kenny K influenced him into getting back on the mic.
Right.
So Kenny K gave birth pretty much to Digital Underground and true hip hop in the city of Tampa. Let's face it, that's the truth. I'm not just giving him homage because he's my homeboy. That's the truth. See what I'm saying? I'm not propping me, I'm propping his brother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's and Shock talked about that at the last show.
He didn't deny it, right?
No, not at
Of
all.
course not. It's the truth.
Right.
Yeah, it's the truth.
And I remember when we sat down with Shock G a few years ago, you know, you had some questions for him in regards to Digital Underground going to California, and what was Kenny's role, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And-
it's very confusing, you know, and some things I just rather let Shock G put his input in.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? You know.
But was that, were you following, you like, from here, were you following kind of them going out there, were you like, oh, they're gonna make it? Like,
No,
that
I
kind of
was
the
I was
vibe?
more with I was more dealing with Kenny's career, my career, his career. When you get Chuck D to do music with you, and on his track he mentions my name and Doc P's name.
Okay.
And I'm in the studio and he says, yo, I want you to listen to this. And he says, yo, I'm chilling in the Bronx and it's late at night and I'm hanging out with my man Doc P and Spike, you know. I'm like, oh, my name is gonna be mentioned in a Public Enemy track by Kenny. So that's love because
Yeah.
he didn't do that to anybody else. It was just me and Doc P. So he had the conversation. He says, once I do this, I'm featured on a Public Enemy track with them. my door's open. I'm on Digital Underground tracks. He was talking to people. He introduced me to Clark Kent. He says, your doors are going to open next because we're going to do something together. So he had a plan.
Okay.
Okay. And, you know, so there was no rush for me to, let's do a track together because the man is doing some serious work. I would only be holding him back by saying, let's do something.
Right.
When you're dealing with bigger people than I am.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah,
what
your
I'm
time
saying?
is going to come.
Yeah,
Just be
right.
patient.
My time's going to come. Just be patient. Unfortunately, it didn't in that sense because of, you know, his demise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rest in peace, my brother. But he was not a selfish person. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't going to put the whole world down.
Right.
The people that he did have relationships with, that, you know, that was his goal. He introduced me to Doc P. We've been friends over 20-something years.
Yeah.
And funny thing is, he says, yo, you remind me of Doc P. And he calls Doc P from the radio station. And Doc P's in New York. And me and Doc P became friends over the phone for a year.
Wow.
But never saw each other.
Right.
He brings Doc P to my mother's house. And I didn't know who this cat was. He's sitting in the van, and they knew who I was. Doc knew who I was. And he told me, yo. So I'm talking to him, and the guy starts spitting, and I'm start rhyming, and he starts laughing. I said, what you laughing at? He said, we've been talking for a year, and you know. And then we finally got to me, and I said, oh my God, we were like phone buddies for a year. You know, it's kind of weird, but we were. And that connection was made because of Kenny's unselfishness to, you know, group people together. You know what I'm saying? But group a certain kind of people together.
Okay.
If he didn't think that you fit in that underground, conscious, hip-hop circle,
Right.
you would not. He would welcome you to the station.
Right.
He would, you know, give you an opportunity. But he was not a friend of everyone's, although everyone knew him.
Okay.
Or he may have known people. There's a saying, a friend of everyone is not a friend to anyone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, let's keep it real. You can't be everybody's friend.
Right. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So, you know, and he had his haters and stuff, you know, I know this.
Yeah, you've talked about that to me on the
Yeah,
phone and stuff, and
yeah.
I know that there was one incident. I don't know if you were involved, when folks came to the radio station, they had to get security at the station.
Oh, you know how many times I had to go to the station with Nation of Islam. I had to go to that radio station with so many bodyguards. Through Kenny's time and through his predecessor's time, I've always had to bodyguard that station, even when Mad Links had it, you know, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, they would call me up, we got problems. X, we got problems, and I go down there, and you know, I guns, and you know, sometimes I would just call Muhammad. It was James Muhammad, formerly James X from the Nation of Islam. And I said, listen, brother, we have some people that's trying to, you know, run through the radio station. I need some security, you know, because I practice Islam, and he was like, what you need, brother? I said, we security. And he says, sure. I says, in return, speak on the radio station. And so we had a working relationship with the Nation of Islam, and they would speak on the radio station as well. They would come through and give beautiful, beautiful speeches of uplifting. And so, you know, the relationships, like I said, were very revolutionary, if I might say.
Right.
You know, even outside of hip hop, when you're dealing with the Nation of Islam,
Right.
or the 5% Nation, and things like that, and you know, and people in hip hop, you know, he was ahead of his time. I believe that if Kenny had, you know, not passed away, he would have, he'd probably still be on tour.
Oh, wow.
And doing great things. I mean, the door was wide open for this man.
Right.
You know, the door was wide. My life probably would have been a lot different. So I might have been a member of something that he's doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so forth and so forth.
So yeah, it's rare to find those visionary type of people.
Very rare.
You know, you say, you know, somebody like RZA from Wu-Tang, or you know, somebody like that's bringing a lot of people together. So you hear that, that's awesome. You know, that he wasn't just out for self.
No, not at all. Funny thing is, Kenny barely ever played his own music on his own radio station.
Wow.
And I used to ask him, why don't you play the music for that? And I couldn't understand it,
Right.
you know. And me being a lot younger than I am now, because now I'm more of a giving person.
Right.
You know, I learned to give. And at the time when you're up and coming MC, you're hungry. You want every avenue open to you. I'm a hungry monster. You know what I'm saying? You know, so play me. How come you ain't playing me? Play me. Everybody better play me. And here's this brother that has his own radio station.
Yeah.
And he's not playing himself.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yes. And if he played himself, it was Danger Zone, maybe Susan and Muhammad one time, a couple months or something like that.
Wow.
He played everybody else, but yeah, maybe he was keeping his stuff. You know, I thought maybe he was keeping his stuff so when people finally hear it, it's a collaboration of bangers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, and which would have been smart as a career move as well.
Keith Waters even told me that Kenny even did beats and songs for certain people, never got credit for it.
Yeah, well, me and Kenny went to Axiom Studios. I think that was the name of it.
Yeah, with Sean Eggers.
Yeah, and I used to produce by sampling. That was the old thing. You would hear a vinyl record, play it, and slow it down and speed it up, what have you, take another one, and see how they really sound together. And Kenny said, "No, you could do that." I said, "Yeah, that's how we do it up north, man." You know, then you take Funky Drummer or something, you know, and then use the drum machine and stuff like that. Keith was doing, man, you could be a dope producer, and he just let me listen to some of his stuff. And I'm like, whoa. So he had his own craft of producing. I did not know what his style of producing was. I heard some of the beats and I was like, those are nice. But we didn't get to really, you know, get into this is how I do it. You know, I showed him how I did mine. But once again, you know, he had so much going on, you know, and I was not going to interfere.
Right, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Just do your craft, you know. And, you know, I don't take people for granted like that anymore. I apologize that I did take it for granted because I always felt that my brother would always be, if we would grow old together and tell stories. So, you know, we're going to be here. We're going to be friends. We're going to be popping bottles at 90 years old, talking about remember them. You know, so I didn't bother taking a lot of pictures. That was my friend.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't take pictures of your friend, you know.
Yeah, you know, there was no selfies or nothing. I didn't bother like that. Like, oh, look, you know, like now, oh, yeah, here's a picture of me and Kenny K. No, I didn't have to do that. You know, my mother knew him. I knew his mother. You know, my ex-wife knew him. He knew me. They used to come to the house and whatnot. You know, so it's not something that you do with friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you know, you only do that when you're a fan and you're trying to convince people that you're friends. You know what I mean? So you'll find very little footage of me and Kenny.
Yeah, either that or you haven't seen somebody in so long, you know, you take that picture because you're not going to see them, you know.
Yeah.
But no, that's totally understandable. That's totally understandable. So what was he like as a person? You know, we talked about him musically. What was he like as a person, you know, just chilling at the house?
Kenny had a great charm about him. Very charming man. And interesting guy. Charming guy. A lot of charisma.
Okay.
And believe it or not, sense of humor.
Okay.
Okay. Comes to the house, knocks on the door, come inside. What do you want? What do you want to drink? Can you go to the refrigerator, help yourself? He goes grab a Coca-Cola, and then he goes grab some orange juice, then he goes grab some grape juice, and then he goes grab some. Back then they didn't have Gatorade. They had that, what was that real thick orange drink? I forgot the name of it. It was a thick orange drink. Oh. You remember
not Tang, was it?
No, it wasn't Tang. It was nasty. It was real thick, and it was thick orange. I forgot the name of it, but you had to put a lot of ice in it in order for it to taste a little bit good. I forgot the name of it, but I had kids that had that orange drink. You would take all of this, put it in the big cups. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He said, this is good. You ever try this? I'm like, No, I'm not gonna try that, man. You know, and so he would do funny things like that. You know, they were hysterical. You know, and it was just so funny. You know, it was just so funny to see him. You know, make these concoctions and then sit back and just chill, which is like a regular dude, regular chill. You know, and then one day. You know, shortly after his passing, I made one of those Kenny K drinks. Yeah, actually they are. Kenny K. You know, I started calling them culture shock drinks. You know?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, you know, you talked about, I know we talked about on the phone about enemies and stuff like that, some people that Kenny didn't get along with. And I don't know if you would want to talk about that.
Well,
because to me that's a side that you don't hear very often, because everybody talks about how great he was and the positive of, but to think that there's somebody out there that didn't feel that way.
okay, well I can sum that up real quick. We can go biblical. Jesus Christ, only be a good man, right?
Right.
Had enemies.
This is true.
Okay, Martin Luther King, enemies.
Right.
Malcolm X, enemies. Spartacus, enemies.
Right.
Someone shot John Lennon.
That's true.
Okay, I mean, so you know, when you're in a position, you know, to do great things, you know, the people that cannot do great things, you know, either obsessed with you, love to hate you. See, I'm not gonna throw no names out there, but that's a fact. This is history.
Right.
The history is the history. Okay, I'm John F. Kennedy, great president, assassinated.
Right.
Okay, I mean,
Okay,
you know,
that makes sense.
okay, so you know, it's not just Kenny; it's people like Kenny, people that you know that want to do great things.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You know, the wicked go punished, of course, but
Right.
so do the righteous by the wicked.
Okay. That's very true. Huh?
No, that's okay. You could.
Let's see. Now, how did you learn? Now, through from '87 all through the late '80s, early '90s, you were working with Kenny, and that friendship developed. How did you learn he got sick? You know, if we could jump straight to that.
Okay. In all honesty, I used to get into a lot of fights, you know, in the street.
Okay.
That was not a secret to Kenny. I had a lot of altercations with guys from College Hills, Carver City, and whatnot. And very serious. I mean, you know, cats that don't know my resume, you know, there was a lot of gunfire. You know? And Kenny was well known to be a ball player. So he'd be, you know, in College Hill playing basketball a little bit.
Okay.
And my name came up, yo, you know, we gonna go kill this dude in spite. Word kill. Now we ain't gonna beat him up or nothing like that.
Right.
Because, you know, true beef is killing.
Right.
It's not, you know, Facebook talk like they do now. You
Right.
know, they're not humiliated with a beatnik. No. We gonna clap guns, B. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, they would talk about killing me, and I was talking about killing them. You know, and you know, I'm not there now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I was there then. You understand what I'm saying? You know, I just come from New York, and nobody from Tampa went pump me.
Right.
Basic. You know, they ain't do it in New York, they ain't do it in Cali, they ain't do it in New York.
Right.
Kenny heard my name in a conversation playing basketball, and he told these dudes, he was like, yo, you know, that's my dude. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Let it go. And pretty much, you know, he brought me peace.
Okay.
Okay? So, you know, I was like, wow, you know, that's a beautiful thing. However, I did get into an altercation that had jacked up my equilibrium. You know, I was like 40, 50 guys, no lie. It was on 4th of July. I was beat up pretty bad. And I was going to get medication called antivirus.
Okay.
Okay. so I could, you know, keep myself centered, so to speak. And while I'm at a clinic, I saw Kenny at the clinic.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and this clinic I believe was off of Hillsborough. I want to say, I think 40th Street was over. Good clinic.
Right.
And his stomach was a little bit big, you know? So his eyes were mad yellow. And,
Wow.
you know, yeah. And, but he was smiling, you know? So I'm like, you know, what's going on? But I'm thinking, you're picking up medication, you're all right.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he was misdiagnosed with hepatitis at first.
Okay.
This is what I think was happening. What was happening to you? I was like, oh man, I'm getting, you know, dizzy spells and this, that, and the other. So, you know, I'm not doing too good, and he's not doing too good.
Right.
You know, neither one of us is doing too good. I'm doing too good. I had a concussion and this, that, and the other. I'm surprised that I lived.
Wow.
And that's how I found out he was sick. But from my understanding, there was misdiagnosis of what was going on with him, from my understanding. Okay? You know, Kenny might have known in a way, but I don't think so. He smiled. He's like, no, I'm good. I said, hey, B? He's like, no, I'm good. I said, what's wrong? He's like, no, you know, this, that, and the other. And then, you know, word on the street, he had hepatitis, but it wasn't a sexual hepatitis. You can get hepatitis in kidneys or
Right.
whatever have you.
Right.
You know, and medication. My sister has, you know, medication to keep you living, but it was not that. So that's how I found out, is face-to-face seeing him at a clinic.
Okay. And then, obviously, he ends up got worse.
He ends up getting worse, and he ends up in the hospital. And then, of course, he needs a transplant.
Right.
And then we have a fundraiser, which I think is kind of an insult. You know, I don't put nobody on blast, but when you help the career of a lot of famous artists, or you push their careers, and these people have millions of dollars and are backed by record labels and this, that, and the other, you know, take a couple of $100 grand together, you know, and save this man's life. We shouldn't have to be doing a fundraiser locally for this icon.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I ain't call nobody out, but you know, some of y'all didn't really try to save him. You know, me, I was broke, but I
Right.
performed at the fundraiser to raise money for him.
Okay.
Okay. You know, I performed and it was caught on BET covered it. You know,
Really?
yeah, BET covered it, and me and a guy named Logic, who owns a restaurant now, Lortz.
Right.
And Shock G at the time, the flyers on Facebook somewhere, hosted it.
Okay.
So it was a coming together, but I think we could have did better than that with the connections that he had. You know, if
Do
that
you think
makes
word
sense.
got out? Do you think
I
people
know,
knew?
I know people have it now. You know, but people are, you know, they're concerned with their career. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You know, you're concerned with your career or your life, or maybe you don't think it's that serious. You know, I mean, nobody tried to stop the Tupac and Biggie beef that tough. You see what I'm saying?
It almost, in a way, kind of parallels a little bit of Dilla, Jay Dilla.
Yeah.
Jay Dilla got sick, passed away.
Right, yeah. So, you know, I mean,
You know, leaving behind Tribe Called Quest, De La
Right.
Soul, etc. You know,
so,
so it's almost like you know, Kenny was just before, you know, a few years before that. You know, almost like Dilla before Dilla
right,
type of thing.
you know, and, you know, it's a lesson we should learn, but I don't think that we learn. You know, I think sometimes there are certain things that we look at and we take for granted, and then there are things that are not as serious, you know, but are serious to other people. And for example, you know, a poodle gets hit by a car and breaks his leg, they put it on Facebook, and it takes $2,000 to heal that poodle, and before you know it, it's got $50,000 because, you know, this cute little poodle is on social media, people have been giving this poodle money and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, people have a certain empathy towards animals that they don't have towards human beings.
Now, what do you think happened to the community after Kenny's passing, I know a lot of people say that the community kind of broke apart, that Kenny kind of held it together. Is that an opinion that you share, or was it, how did the community respond afterwards?
Well, let me start by saying that I was in a hotel. Okay, I used to spend a lot of my time sleeping in hotels. You know, I separated. I'd go rent a hotel for a week. You know, and doing my thing in a hotel. You know, and there were certain hotels that I would be at, chilling and doing things to make money.
Right.
You know, while I was pushing music.
Right.
And one dude named Frank Kenny, we used to call Frank Kenny, was a producer that I was working with at the time. He knew Kenny. Knocks on the door of the hotel. And too many people knew where I stayed because of, the reputation that I had. And he had told me that Kenny passed away. Okay. And that probably was one of the only times that I cried. I don't cry anymore because I don't have tear glands.
Okay.
So I can't. But at the time I did. And I just started crying really bad. And we had this family had this funeral, which was a little bit strange to me, because Kenny's roots and his heart and his soul was more Islamic, but he had more of a Baptist type of funeral.
Okay.
But I guess because of his family or whatever.
Right.
Only a few members of the hip hop community were invited by his family, which shows that he was only close to certain people. So it'd be me, Quabina, I think a few of the KS were there and stuff.
Doc P was in New York at
Right,
the
he
time.
was in New York at the time. And after that, we had a radio show to honor him with his last radio show.
Okay.
Okay, and we honored him by playing his last radio show. And it was a great radio show. And he had big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Okay, no one was ever able to capture that magic again.
Right.
Ever. So, of course, it seemed like who was going to be the next Kenny K, or who was going to take over the radio station, or who was going to have that spot. Well, that spot could never be taken. It was his.
Right.
The king is dead. Long live the king. You've heard that. When the king is dead, there is no other king. That was it. That was it. That was his spot.
Right.
He made it his, and there was no successor. There are only people that carry the torch, but no successors. No one will ever be the successor to the hip hop of Tampa or 88.5 or any of these other things that are going on. There are no godfathers of Tampa or anything of that nature. That's him.
Right.
That's the king.
So now how do you feel when you go back to 88.5? I know you've done a lot of work with Mission, and you've done a lot of work with Nick, Major. You're going back to 88.5 to promote. How are those feelings when you go back there?
Originally, before they moved, there were a lot of reminiscent feelings, like wow, this is, I remember this, and I would go to the back room and stuff. But then they built a bigger studio,
Right.
In a different place, which is a good thing, and they honor his name in the studio, and then they have the Kenny K studio there, which is a beautiful thing. But at the same time, since it's moved its location, it's like moving Mecca. If you're familiar with what that means,
Right.
okay, they moved the holy place here, so it's no longer our holy ground. So for me, it's really kind of not the same.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And that's just me.
Right.
It's not the same, but nothing is the same from, late 80s to early 90s. one when it comes to this beautiful thing that we call hip hop culture, and you know the music and the DJing and the vinyl and the CDs and the tapes that no longer exist because everything is an MP3, and you know you don't need a radio station where you can Bluetooth your cell phone from Rhapsody or Milk Music to your car and commercial free 24/7. You don't have to listen to a radio on Saturday night and wait and record. So what was significant then is very insignificant now.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I'm trying to think what else. No, I just want to thank you too for this and that, for all the whole step of process from, you know, helping me interview Shock G a few years ago to everything that you've been helpful in, and I know that this is, I want to get it on camera because I know that we've talked so many times about so many different things and ran into each other at so many different events, and I was like, me and Spike got to sit down and do this. And like I said, the goal is to try to, whether via audio, video, and things, just try to put together, I mean, ideally, I'd love to have a website, you know, where people can explore. You know, if you want to watch somebody talk about Kenny, watch this video. You want to watch, I did that video with Chuck D. You know, if you want to watch somebody local, you want to watch Chuck D talk about it. You want to watch this person, that person. You want to hear one of his shows, you click here. You want to hear somebody, you know, you want to see pictures, you click here.
Kenny is unsung.
Yes.
Okay, you know, and the way that I look at it is, let's look at something like Paul Revere.
Okay.
Okay, Paul Revere, when he said the British are coming, and Paul Revere got all this credit. But do you really think Paul Revere went through that town on a horse by himself? He probably had 100 riders going through that town, and the British are coming in. But because he let it, well, because we're in the city of Tampa and we're not in New York City, you know, he's an icon here, and still this place is not an iconic place when it comes to hip hop.
Right.
So we value him here.
Right.
So he's unsung in so many ways because geographically, our location, the time era that he was in,
right,
you know, the type of music that he played, okay, and the people that truly care about Kenny are the ones that truly know him.
Right.
Okay? I mean, you can talk about Jam Master Jay to a 20-year-old now, and they don't really care. And that's a nationally known person.
Right.
You know, people might like Tupac or whatever have you, but it's not like they don't grieve unless they know Tupac. You see what I'm saying? So, in that sense, Kenny is these people, but because of where he's at, he's unsung.
Right.
You follow me? Had he been in New York, he'd be like Big Al.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how I feel that, you know,
like I mentioned Dilla.
Yeah,
Dilla's recognized throughout the hip hop community, and that's why I say Kenny was almost like a pre-Dilla.
Yes.
In that regard, he did music. He just didn't get the recognition at the time of his passing.
Just I give him a year, one more year of his grind. Had he not been sick, one more year of his hustle and what he was doing. I mean, you know, you're hanging out with legends and doing music with them, and you're not paying them like people pay them for features right now. You know, Chuck D didn't get a dime. Chuck D did what he did for Kenny out of love for Kenny. Okay, that was out of love and respect. Kenny didn't have to pay anybody for an interview on the station. You know, the industry had nothing but respect for him. You know, and he went to the Grammys in New York and an airbrush ISIS on his overalls and stuff like that. You know, he was just one of those dudes that was destined for great things. However, his life was cut short.
Now you mentioned right there, I'm sorry.
So with that, we will always have a great memory.
Right.
He will always be a great man. And, you know, a conversation that I had with Nick, you know, when we talk about honoring Kenny, it always comes up as Nick says, you loved him, I loved him. He you know, he's relevant to the history of Tampa, but his name will fade away, unfortunately, as we fade away.
Right. And you know what though, on the flip side, you guys telling, I mean, I didn't live here in the 80s and 90s. I didn't move here until 06. So, but, you know, through Nick, meeting the hip hop community, and Nick keying in on my interest in hip hop and my interest in writing and history and everything, he said, you can do this.
Well,
So perhaps,
yeah. Well,
through
with the
this-
work that you're doing, with enough attention and with enough push and anything that I can do to help, we can carry it, but oh so far. You know, and I'm just saying that because I'm kind of losing faith, not in Kenny's legacy,
right,
you know, but in human nature, and how we do not have respect for our own culture.
right,
You know what I mean? I mean, cats in hip hop, you know, who's talking about Big Pun right now?
right,
You know what I mean? Another dude that died of a heart attack or what have you know, because of his weight. He's not mentioned a lot. There's no websites. Remember Big Pun is, you know, this. So it's difficult to keep someone's memory alive after a few generations of the people. Even in fact, Joe doesn't even talk about it that much in his music.
right.
He did in the beginning.
And you might get a birthday mix tribute or
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
but that's
So imagine it's a little difficult,
right.
you know.
Maybe
Maybe
with Kenny, you've got this connection to Digital Underground, and then through Digital Underground, of course, you got a connection to Tupac. And as long as Tupac's story keeps going, and you know, as we say, that legacy may fade, but right now Tupac is mentioned with Biggie as, you know.
yeah, but it's kind of like if you know, and you know, not to throw shade. He talks about Elvis.
Right.
Eventually, it fades. You know what I'm saying? Who talks about Marilyn Monroe, but fans of Marilyn Monroe?
Right.
You know,
But at the same time, you know, you've got people like B.B. King, who just passed away last year. And once people start looking back at the catalog and say, wow, look at all this. You know, he hasn't done much in the last, you know, few years, but look at this back catalog. And if somebody is that ahead of their time, they get that recognition like Edgar Allan Poe.
absolutely. My theory is Kenny can be immortalized one or two ways. One, find someone who has all the audios of his radio station. You know, I know a guy that has them, but I'll find him.
There's been a few people that I've heard.
Right, and find the songs that he did with Chuck D, some of the stuff that he's done, remix them, put them out. See what I'm saying? And in doing so, then you can accomplish giving him his immortality. But without these audios,
Right.
that's hard to do because we're talking to people about someone, but we're not hearing this person's
Right.
vocals. It's not that easy. It's
Right.
easier said than done.
Right. But we'll do what we can, you know, putting whatever kind of website tribute together. And, you know, if somebody, like I said, if somebody wants to contribute, they're more than welcome. Even if anything, working with WMNF to digitalize his shows, because everybody's got them on tape, or those who do.
Tell you what, if you were to do that, matter of fact, if you were able to have his music and everything is an app.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know if 88.5 has an app.
Sure.
They should.
Right.
If they don't have one, they should.
Right.
You know, have an app, and where you can actually, you know, promote and listen to Kenny K via that app on your cell phone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just to access his old shows, you want to put on an old mix.
Yeah.
You want to do that, and I recorded I digitalized about 10 of them.
Because the picture that I see here is, if you put out his old shows, you're again throwing light on the artists that are not as relevant as they used to be, and of course they're going to be like, oh yeah, and that may help jumpstart some of their careers as well, if not doing things in the States. So, you know, I can see it happening that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's a big pie with a lot of ingredients. I hear your point. I see your vision. Much respect.
So I appreciate that. It's just so much. You know, it's talking to you, it's talking to Nick, it's talking to Doc P, it's talking to so many people that knew Kenny, and then it's talking to the next generation, the Sandmans, and stuff like that, saying, hey, you listen to Kenny, how were you influenced? And then it's, you know, maybe talking to the most recent MCs, maybe sitting down with somebody like Dynasty or something and say, hey, have you heard about Kenny? And what do you think, you know, and seeing if that legacy is carried on and making sure it is.
See, that's the thing that I have doubt of, you know, and you know, maybe because there's a personal place in my heart for Kenny, you know, and the conversation that I've had with Nick, because, you know, I think of Kenny being larger than life, but Nick tends to bring me down to earth and low. You know, that's our thing.
Right.
You know, and you know Nick.
Yeah.
That's our thing. Not everyone's gonna feel the same way.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, I have a certain reluctantness of any project like that because Nick, you know, Nick is wise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when he's telling me this, I gotta go, you might have a point. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if something like that is done and it's done even a millimeter off, you know, it will not have the impact that it should have. But if it's done correctly, then yes, but regardless, his legacy will always live on.
Right.
As long as there's an 88.5, as long as there's a Nick Major, as long as there's a Spike the Rock Paradox, as long as there's a Doc P, as long as there's you.
I hope so. You know, and Tease brought that up when she talked about him on stage, and she said, if you're doing this, it's got to be done right. And I knew she was talking to me because you know, Concept had told her that somebody's trying to, you know, put this all together.
And don't play with her yet. Yeah. She's big on the real history of,
Oh yes.
of Kenny. She was very close to him.
Yes.
You know, closer to him than even I.
And she, you know, we talked after that, we exchanged numbers. I said, I know who that message was for. And she said, you heard it, take it to heart.
Yeah,
You know, so, you know, we exchanged numbers, and I texted her after I put up the concert on YouTube. I said, hey, I don't know if you got this, but here's the link to the YouTube concert. You know, and she said, all right, anytime, you know, you want to talk, you know, but I know she's not in town, so it's a coordination thing, you know, it's a coordination thing with her, it's a coordination thing with Doc P. Robin is somebody I'd love to talk to, but I haven't reached out to yet.
He's on social media, so you can reach Robin on social media. It's you know, we also live in a society that's I would like to say lacks in compassion nowadays. You know, somebody dies and everybody throw like, you know, their picture on the next week. Forget it.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
You know, it's. Marvin Gaye passed away. I remember when Marvin Gaye passed away. I was so hurt. I remember when Bruce Lee passed away, and I still listen to Marvin Gaye. And I have Bruce Lee scroll in the room, and I have Bruce Lee books, and I watch. You know, these people had an influence in my life. But today's society is come and go.
Yep.
you know, come and go. It's just
Somebody like David Bowie passed away, I'm gonna throw up David Bowie mixtape together, dead, well, okay, next day.
yeah. Next, so you understand, it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's, you know, even you know, our predecessors now are the way that they think and do things is a lot different. So it just makes the struggle so much harder to succeed in not just this, but in any avenue that you choose to do musically, or you know, and you know, as an entrepreneur or whatever have you. You know, it's kind of stale, unfortunately. You know, but we need to wake these people up. You know, as long as I'm alive, Kenny's name will always be remembered as a king.
Awesome, man, that's out the best word, man. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Peace.
You as well, man.